Good morning, everyone. I think we can start. I can see people in ISPRA. Hello, wave. Hello. You don't see us. My name is Paola Pepe. I represent the Open Data Portal, and I'm here with my colleague Simon Steuer. We will have this webinar today, but there are also many colleagues from different services of the European institutions that today will present you their open data. The purpose of this webinar is to help the participants understand better the open data produced and managed by the European institutions, and to help the potential participants to the Datathon, the EUdatathon 2017, to use those open data to develop apps, mobile apps, websites, or use in general open data for their activities. Some technicalities about the webinar. It will last until 12, but you don't have to attend everything if you are too busy. This webinar will be recorded, and the video will be sent to you. The link to the video will be sent to all the participants later today. The PowerPoint presentations will also be sent out after the webinar, so you can reread everything. This session will be interactive, so feel free to write in the chat box any question you might have, or problems, technical problems, or anything you want to add. You can also raise your hand. There is a button, raise your hand, so we can see in case we don't read immediately your question. You can attract our attention about that. You, as I was saying, you will be muted during the entire webinar, so we can avoid background noises and interference, but only the speakers we will open their microphone at the right moment. Okay, I think we can start, and so let's start with the first question: where can we find European Union open data? And I give the floor to Simon. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome from me. I want to present you very briefly the EU Open Data Portal. You can find it on data.europa.eu/EUODP, and we are basically the point of access and reuse for all EU open data. As you can see, we have now around 11,000 datasets in a wide variety of subjects and groups. Please search for it. Feel free to do so. I want to show you just what we do. For example, we have an applications tab, which could be really interesting for you, because those are applications which use already EU open data, and the apps who will participate will also be highlighted here in this tab on our page. So you can also see what's doing good, what's wrong, maybe how do you have new ideas. The other things are linked data and the developer's corner. Those two tabs are really interesting for you who want to participate and who want to develop an app. Why? Because in the linked data tab, we have a Sparkle endpoint, and you can query our metadata. And in the developer's corner, you can call our API via, for example, Postman. If you have questions to those two tabs, please ask us questions. So just to recap the EUdatathon 2017, on our website you'll find everything which you need to know. For example, on how to participate, you see the timeline. For you, the most important date now is the 8th October 2017 for team registration with your proposal for an app. If you want to do a little bit of promotion for us, feel free. In the final event tab, we have banners, and you can reuse them as much as you want. And the last thing is the registration. So the registration for an app submission is really short, and it's basically about the idea you have. So After that, we will notify the shortlisted teams on the 16th of October. And if you are shortlisted, you can start and develop an app.
Okay, so this was the first part, very quick as you can see. We don't want to abuse your time, so let's go directly to the first presenter of today. I see they are ready. It's the GRC Joint Research Center. They will present GHSL dataset, and etc. So, Lorenzino, I think it's you. You can open the microphone. Or, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm trying. Hello, this is Lorenzino Vaccari from the Joint Research Center, ESPRA, Italy. We have 3 presentations today. Let's say I'm still trying to share my screen. I don't know how. It should work now. No?
You have the quick start tab, and you have in the middle share screen option. Does it work?
No, but we tested before with Simon and it was working, and I don't know why I cannot share my screen now.
We are working on that. Can you just in the meantime, general, yeah.
Can you click on Quick Start, and do you see the share screen button?
We don't have the computer. I mean, it's a video conference room. We tested this morning. We don't have a quick start.
Okay.
I'm trying to share my screen.
We show your slides, okay?
Yeah, actually I changed a bit there, but okay. It's strange that it doesn't work because we tested this morning with Simon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because we tested it works perfectly.
Let's check. I will try to do as usual. I touch my computer and I attach it again. Okay.
Here you are.
Now it works. Okay. So. This is yours. This is not mine. Okay. So. We are here, a group of people. We'll present you later during the next presentation. We have 3 presentations, as I said. The first one is of the most downloaded datasets of the GRC data catalog, which is one of the catalogs is part of the constellation that feeds the European Open Data Portal. The second presentation will be about the alternative fuels bioenergy challenge and the request from us. Let's say there is the possibility to develop a mobile app, and my colleague Jacopo Giuntoli from PETEN, the GRC PETEN, will also explain it. And the third challenge is from us, from our catalog actually. And we would like to classify automatically the dataset, because this is a request that is coming from our users. Often they have their own classification or they have an official classification, and they would like to classify the dataset that we have in the catalog automatically. And due to the fact that we use the same software package that is used for the European Open Data Portal, which is called SICAN, will be developed and will be used not only for us but also for other for the European.
Sorry for interrupting you. Some people are saying that they can hear not very well. So maybe you can get closer to the microphone and speak a little slower and zoom in. It's perfect, so we can.
Yeah. Can you hear me now a bit?
Yeah. Just don't speak too fast so we can follow. And yeah.
Can you hear me a bit better now?
Yes.
Yeah? So I need my slides.
We are trying to make you use your slides. Next.
Okay, so we can go to the next slide, please.
Is this one or the other one?
Yes, this one. Okay, as I told you, the GRC data catalog is in the middle, the external version, and you can find the URL in the middle box. Okay, we have almost 2,000 data sets that we upload in the European Open Data Portal, and also we disseminate the metadata to other catalogs, okay? So the address is data.gsc.ec.europa.eu. But this is just a copy of the European Open Data Portal, the part that is regarding the GSC datasets. And the nice thing is that we have a persistent identifier for all our datasets, and that we can use the datasets as citations as well in the publications. Okay, this is something that we have as an added value for the catalogs, for the datasets that are in our catalog. So we can pass to the next slide. Can you switch to the next slide, please? Okay, now I will give the floor to my colleague, Aneta Florczyk, that will present the global human settlements layer datasets.
Good morning. Can you hear me well? I assume that yes. So can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you very much. So GCSL dataset is is the main product from GCSL team that works in disaster risk management unit. It produces global spatial information, evidence-based analytics, and knowledge describing the human presence in the planet. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay. So GCSL data relies on the design and implementation of new spatial data mining technologies, allowing to process automatically and extract analytics and knowledge from a large amount of heterogeneous data, including global fine-scale satellite image data and census data mainly. Spatial data reporting objectively and systematically about the presence of human and built-up infrastructures are necessary for any evidence-based modeling and assessing of human and physical exposure to threats as environmental contamination or degradation, natural disasters or conflicts. Also, they are important for assessing impact of human activities on ecosystems, and also it helps to analyze the access to the resources. The project produces thematic information and evidence-based analytics knowledge, supporting the implementation of several EU policies and also international post-2015 frameworks, mainly Sustainable Development Goals, the Global Urban Agenda, Climate Change Goals, and Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. Also, the project supports international scientific partnership, which facilitate science policy interface in the frame of Geo-Human Planet initiative. Can you go to next, please? Okay. Okay, so let's go to the data itself. Here for this for the Datathon, we would like to invite you to have a look to our release 2016. That is composed from composed of 3 main datasets, which are interlinked between them. In general, this dataset is multi-temporal. It gives you the overview on the built-up population and settlement model in 75, 90, 2000, and 2015. The most important thing is to remember that this data is derived from satellite imagery at nearly 40-meter resolution. It is built up, and which is later used for the population disaggregation. The population grid, which we refer to population density grid Cedefop, and GHS built-up were used to derive a settlement model, which is implementation of degree of urbanization, which is harmonized global definition of the settlements, which is right now applied globally and tested across the globe. Currently, we have released several versions in terms of the resolution, mainly to 250 meters and 1 kilometer. it is data, and can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. So here is the way how you can access the data. And as example of application that you could develop or think about is, we call it country fact sheets, which are in fact the degree of urbanization test framework, which is published on our website. We invite you also to go to the website to explore the data. There is the mapping functionality as well. Another example by external colleagues, which was made, is World Population Density website. That it's a Luminosity 3D platform that exploit our population multi-temporal data. So you can also see this kind of application there. So please free, let's apply our, let's explore the data and have a look how you can mix this data with other open data and derive maybe very interesting, for sure, very interesting applications. Thank you.
Okay, so now we pass to the second presentation. Jacopo, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Nope.
I don't know if
Yes,
this
I can
is
see
your
your screen.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you put full screen mode?
I will. Yes,
The
certainly.
floor is yours.
Okay.
Thanks, Jacopo.
Thank you, Lorenzino. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jacopo Giuntoli. I work in the Sustainable Transport Unit, also at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. So I'm here to present some of our data and some of our ideas how this data could be used in a mobile app. We call our let's say, data sets alternative fuels and bioenergy because that's what we do. So basically, in the context of our work is that the European Commission and the European institutions want to promote sustainable bioenergy and biofuels, and because that's usually a better way of producing energy, power, heat, or biofuel or fuels, transport fuels, as compared to fossil fuels, of course. But there are some issues with bioenergy, mostly in terms of sustainability. So bioenergy and biofuels need to be produced sustainable. And one of these points that is included into European legislation is that bioenergy and biofuels need to save, or let's say emit, a certain amount of carbon dioxide less than fossil fuels in order to be considered sustainable. So the challenge that we are proposing is to design a mobile app or a web tool that can visualize and actually allow users to customize the carbon footprint calculations that we have produced for the European legislation. So this is a bit broader context. It's not visually attractive, this slide, I'm afraid, but at least there is some text. So as I said, bioenergy and biofuels are important renewable sources of energy, and we, as European institution, would like to promote them because they are beneficial for EU energy and climate policies. However, in order to be eligible for public support, these energy sources, energy commodities, need to comply with defined sustainability criteria. These criteria are defined in EU legislation, the Renewable Energy Directive, for example, or Fuel Quality Directive, and this legislation has been recently updated by the European Commission, and we have just released last November a latest update. So one of the sustainability criteria that's included in the legislation is that these pathways, these commodities, they have to achieve a minimum greenhouse gas emission saving threshold compared to fossil fuels. Within the legislation, there are already some calculations that we call default values that we, JRC, have produced so that operators, industrial operators, can use to demonstrate that they comply with this criterion. So we, the Joint Research... Yes,
sorry.
yes.
Can I ask you to speak a little slower?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Yeah, because it's the first time for many people that we hear this kind of subject. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, sorry. So the main background to this work is that when you produce bioenergy or biofuels along the production chain of the bioenergy commodity or the biofuel, think about ethanol, for example, you will have several processes. So you will have to cultivate your biomass, for instance, wheat or other grains. You will have to transport it. You will have to process it and convert it from biomass material into sugars, which are then fermented into ethanol. And then the ethanol is produced and distributed and sold as a transport fuel. Now, all these processes and all these operations have some energy consumption associated, some emissions of pollutants, and mainly have emissions of greenhouse gases, which mostly is fossil CO2, methane, and nitrous dioxide. So if we want to promote bioenergy which is sustainable, of course, these operations, the accounting of these emissions along the supply chain should not be as high or higher than fossil fuels. Otherwise, we would be promoting something that's even worse than fossil fuels. In order to comply and to demonstrate that a bioenergy supply chain is better than fossil fuels, let's say in this perspective, we need to account for all the emissions along the supply chain via a life cycle assessment calculation. Now, operators can do that on their own, or the Commission offers some default values that the JRC has calculated for the economic operators. Now, these default values are quite comprehensive, and we have produced with that a large data set, which includes several commodities. So, for example, for final use, we have ethanol, we have biodiesel, we have electricity, we have heat, and we have considered several initial input feedstocks. So it can be ethanol from grains, it can be power from wood, et cetera, or from straw, and many other biomass feedstock. Now, these calculations are all included in the legislation, but we would like to make the data more visible and more accessible for common users even. So our proposal for a challenge is to design a mobile app or even a web tool that can visualize this data, first of all, but can also help to customize the calculations that we have produced so that users can either quickly go and check for a value, especially this would be targeted to economic operators. But for instance, educational users could use the tool to calculate specific results, and they can be used in class, in academia, or they can be used by researchers that would like to use some specific data from our data set in their own calculations. So as I write here, we think that the tool could be an ideal companion for many stakeholders, and both for expert users, but also for academics and professionals. What we have thought, because we have a similar idea some years ago, and we started up with a visualization tool, we thought that the tool could be based on a data builder where we have the several processes of the supply chain separated, and then the user can choose each of them and then define the parameters and the details that compose the supply chain eventually. And we have prepared some other ideas that are in the appendix to this challenge, and they will be distributed. So in terms of data sets and the tools, basically the source data sets are available at these links. At the moment, the data sets are formatted Excel files, so they are not very probably helpful in terms of automatization and app design, but they are now there for a different purpose because they're there mostly for economic operators and stakeholders, so it needed to be user-friendly. But we are, of course, very willing to work with whoever chooses this challenge to make the data in the format that's needed and that's more appropriate. So as I said, there is a similar but more simplified tool that was produced in the past and can be accessed by this link, but the source code is proprietary, so it cannot be available. And we don't have preference for the programming language or for the charting tools used. And as I said, mobile app could be nice, but also web tool is very welcome. And we are here for any question to support you throughout all the way. This concludes my talk. Sorry if I was a bit too technical and fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacopo. Who's next? We have a third one. Open the microphone to GRC, maybe, and to Lorenzino. Let's go back.
Okay.
Lorenzino, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah, I would like to add to the presentation of Jacopo that there are also some slides that Jacopo prepared as an appendix, but we don't have the time to present now, that describes the mobile app or the web app that was developed, if I'm not wrong, and as an example.
Minutes.
Yeah, sorry?
You still have 18 minutes, so you can use them. 18.
Yeah, I don't know if Jacopo, do you want to present them in 5 minutes?
Wait, because his microphone is off.
Okay, you know, I'm back. Let me find them, maybe.
If you want. Otherwise, I will proceed with my presentation, and then we will leave the floor to you at the end.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay.
Proceed with yours. Yes.
Okay. So I will proceed with the third challenge, which is a kind of, let's say, general challenge. As I told you at the beginning, our issue here at the GRC sometimes is that the users, they require to classify their data sets by using a specific thesaurus. Okay? So this means that we should go to each data set documentation, add some keywords, add the vocabulary, and classify the data sets manually. But this is not, and then we have to update it. We have to maintain the classification of the data sets, okay, with this vocabulary. And this is not, actually, we cannot do it because it takes time, and we cannot align our data sets every time to the thesaurus or thesauri. So what we thought that maybe this classification can be done automatically, okay? So if we go to the next slide, okay, as I told you, the context is the automatic classification of data sets, and the challenge is to categorize the data sets accordingly to a given thesaurus. We have the contact. I put the email, which you can use both for this challenge and also for the other challenges. If you cannot contact maybe the other colleagues, or you need something quite general on the GRC data catalog, you can use this contact, GRC data support at the Europe-EU. The team is here, half of the team, it's me, Krista Cinaraki, and Alessandro Dalla Benetta, okay? Okay, the next slide, I will describe a bit more the challenge. Okay, as I told you, we would like to classify the data set given a particular thesaurus, okay? On the right part of the screen, you see that there is a thesaurus. I think this is the Eurovoc, if I'm not wrong. And on the left part, there is a list of data sets. So the challenge is to assign each data set to one or more terms, okay? You can extend the documentation of the data sets, taking, for example, the title, the description, the keywords, using some external informations like web pages that are connected to this data set, publications, and so on. Okay. In the same way, let's say, you can extend the terms of the thesaurus by using some external resources, like, for example, Wikipedia. So if you have a term that is agriculture, you can associate a text to this term and then extend the definition. So the challenge is really to extend both the documentation of the data sets and the terms that you have on the right part and try to match them, okay? At the end, you should be able to return, let's say, classification and categorization of the dataset in a certain way. Okay, doesn't matter the format of the returned file. The important thing is that in some way the datasets are classified. Okay, if we go to the next slide, can you? Okay, let's say that we tried this. We made a proof of concept on how to do it, and we use the classification that we have now, which is manual, into 10 categories. We have the GSC science areas, and the users, they usually categorize our datasets in 10, matching them to 10 terms. We use the semantic matching, so we didn't use only the syntactic of the description of the titles and on the terms, but also synonyms, subterms, and so on. And we use a tool to classify it, and you can find the references in the slide, which is called Dandelion. Okay, this tool lets you classify the datasets as I was describing before, extending both the parts. We had a very low F measure, which is a measure that is usually used to judge the matching between two vocabularies. Okay, and how the classification is done. And we had, let's say, the 30% of the dataset correctly classified. We would like to improve this classification, but unfortunately we didn't have time, and we don't have a project, a specific project to do it. So we are asking you if you have a specific competence in this kind of classification, semantic matching, and align, and so on, to try it if you want, if it is interesting for you. Okay. Okay. This was my last slide, and actually, yeah, in the last one you can find some. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here I put some. How can you retrieve the list of datasets, including their documentation? As you may know, we are using the SICAN software package, and this software package has some APIs with which you can retrieve both the list of the datasets that are in a catalog and also the description. Okay? So if you use the links that I gave you, I put you in the slides, for example, you can retrieve the metadata of the datasets. Okay? At the same time, we suggest, we use this tool, as I was telling you, which is called Dandelion, to classify the datasets. Okay? So you can have a look to these APIs, and you can use these APIs to classify the datasets. Okay? Of course, semantic classification is not the only way to classify the datasets. We are just suggesting it, but it is not mandatory. You can use whatever kind of classification you want. Okay, and also the methodology. You can use other kind of methodologies as well. And then we have in the last slide. Okay, the next slide, we will have some of the interesting thesauri that you can use, and we would like you to use to classify the datasets, and that are published in the website of the publication office. Okay, so you can use this slide as a reference, and of course, if you have questions, please contact us or contact the European Open Data Portal team, which will put us in contact with you. Okay, so how much time do we have? Still 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, you have until 45, so 9 minutes.
Okay, so we have 8 minutes. I don't know if Jacopo is ready to present the next part, or if there are specific questions. Exactly. How can we proceed?
If anyone has a question, you can write it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and we can open your microphone. So feel free. Otherwise, Jacopo?
Yes, I can give a couple of slides additional maybe to clarify some of our ideas that can, of course, be questioned and changed, but that's just an initial ideas that we would have. So let me share my screen. Okay. So as I said earlier, our initial idea, based on previous experience with a similar app, was to have start the app with a data builder, which would allow basically each process that composes the supply chain for the biofuel. In this case, you can see you have, I'm sorry, it's in Italian, but it was made for an Italian audience. So you have cultivation of the feedstock, you have transport of the feedstock, you have a processing plant, you have the distribution of the biofuels, so to the pump, then you have the pump, and then eventually the final user, which is a car, of course. So this is how the old app started, in the sense that each user could choose one of the process one after the other, and then define the single parameters within that process, and then compose the final result at the end of the choice. And what we thought is that the app could have two modes. This would also give actually you an option to, if you don't have time to do the whole thing, maybe a part of it would still be valuable, in the sense that the app could work as a simple data visualizer. So the data are already calculated and finalized and available in the data sets in the links that we shared earlier, and already something that can quickly retrieve those data in a nice and visual format would be helpful. But the data in the data sets can also be used to calculate new data and new results, and that's a bit more complex, and it's the second part here that I call data calculator mode. There's a lot of text, you can read it if you're interested, but I just wanted to give you some idea that we had for the data builder, and maybe can clarify what we mean and what our data set is all about. So for instance, if you have the data sets that we have some final use. So for example, we are producing, considering a supply chain that produces power and heat, so electricity or heat. So you will have to choose, the user will have to choose what's the feedstock that's being used in this commodity. Is it wood chips or wood pellets, which are specific pieces of wood compressed, or is it an agricultural feedstock? Then there are some more specific choices within those macro choices of specific biomass feedstocks, and these are all pathways that are within the data set. Those are all the different categories that are in the data set. Then there are some technology options that the user should choose, the transport logistic that the user want to visualize, and at the end of this choice, in the data visualizer mode, let's say, the user would see a single result or a couple of results, and then there are other options in the final conversion, and then there are other results that can be visualized. These are all already calculated in the data sets. So these are simply visualizing tools. And if, for instance, if one goes to an idea could be if the user clicks on the final conversion, wants to see the conversion to electricity, and then the user could choose, for example, the final efficiency, and then get the final result. This is an additional calculation compared to the data set, but it's a very simple one. It's a multiplication. Or there are other more complex options that could be provided to the user in the sense of mixing, producing power and heat. In this case, there are a couple more processes of calculations from the data set, but nothing extremely complex. It's almost everything already in the data set. And then there are other examples in the slides, which I don't go into details, but this is more or less our idea of how the data builder could work, and then produce either a final visual for the user based on existing results, or allow the user to play with the parameters and calculate new results based on the data sets. And this concludes my talk.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jacopo. So I still invite if someone has some questions. We have still, how many? 2-3 minutes?
Yes. And if not, we can go directly to next.
Yeah. So
Okay.
thanks a
So
lot for the...
thank you, GRC. I guess the participants will be able to contact you for further questions. We will circulate also the slides, the PowerPoint presentations to the participants, so they can read again and go through it and maybe ask questions if they have. It was very interesting, so thank you for this input, for the challenges. So we invite the participants to take those challenges and use the open data and develop or try to answer those questions, how to use using EU open data. Okay, thank you, and stay there if you want, so you can go. And okay, there are no questions. We go to the next one. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Lorenzino. Bye, Jacopo. Bye.
Bye.
So Cedefop is the next speaker. Elias, are you there? I hope you are there. Okay, Elias is there. Yes, we can see you. You're on the phone, but we cannot hear you for the moment. Go.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. This is Elias. I'm from Cedefop. I'm an expert here at the Department for Skills and the Labor Market, and I'm delighted to be part of this initiative. Would be a good idea to share my screen?
Yeah, go. Can you do it?
So how do I do that? I go to share screen. I click on share, and then here. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Please let me know when you do.
You did it, the share screen.
Yes.
Try again.
Maybe now.
Something is happening. Now we see it. Perfect.
Okay, excellent. Very good. So, right. Okay, so I will be talking about. I think something happened. Sorry, I'll go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, you can all see it, right? So I will be talking about the project that we have been undertaking at Cedefop for more than 10 years now, and this refers to the future demand and supply of skills. It refers to projections or estimations that we make about the future, and we produce this information for both the supply side.
Wait, sorry, I have to interrupt you because we don't see your slides anymore.
You don't see my slides anymore.
Yeah.
So let me see what can I do here. Meeting info. Can I do something? Maybe click again on share my screen?
Yeah, meeting, quick start and share screen.
Okay, then cancel, then share. One.
Voila, now it's coming.
Is it working now?
Good. Yes, it's good.
Oh.
From presentation.
Okay, so that's okay? You can all see it? Very good. Okay, so I've been saying that we produce projections for the future supply and demand for skills. And this is what you see in the screen. It is a snapshot of our detailed data section at the Cedefop website. There is a simple process of logging in order to have access to it, but it is straightforward and it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes. So we're saying that we produce projections for both the supply and the demand for skills. As you see, we have 3 blocks of information. On the top block, we have information regarding the supply side. So the supply side refers to the labor force, the future labor force, and we produce this information for all member states, and we have available breakdowns referring to gender, age groups, and qualifications, which in fact is the level of education, the formal level of education. So using the data on the supply side, you can answer yourself questions, for example, what could be the future labor force in Italy in 2020, you would get an estimation there, and you can also use this sort of information to produce the growth rate. So, for example, you may be interested to know if people aged 50 to 65 will be growing or declining, their availability to be in employment or be available for work, and you can use this data in order to retrieve such information. And as I said, we have information also for gender, so male and female workers and people available in the labor force, and by qualification. On the bottom blocks, the bottom two blocks, we first have information regarding the employment trends. So what this is about, you may want to know what will be the levels of employment needed in the economy for particular sectors or occupations. So, for example, if I pick Spain and agriculture, you may want to know how many people will be needed in Spain in agriculture in 2020. So you'll be in a position to find this information there. And let me say that the time horizon that we produce the information refers to 10 to 15 years, so the current round of information goes up to 2025. So this is one sort of information you can find there, but you may also want to know if the sector is growing or declining. So, for example, if we need 100 people in 2020 in Spain in agriculture, and in 2025 we need 80 people, that means that the sector is actually declining, always in terms of employment. But this is not the only source of information that is needed, because this shows whether the sector or the occupation is actually growing or it is declining, but we also need to know what will happen in terms of jobs opportunities. So what do I mean here? Every year we need to replace a large number of people because they change occupation, they exit the workforce, they retire, or they move country, or any other reason. So it is very important to know this in order to know what will be the demands for the future and what will be the job openings. So if I build on the example I gave you earlier, if in 2025 we need 80 people in agriculture in Spain, whereas in 2020 we needed 100, we already know that the sector is declining by 20%. But maybe in that sector, because people are retiring, we will need to replace 40 of them in this period. So we know that now we need 40 people to be replaced, minus the 20 that we don't need it anymore because the sector is declining. We actually now know that in agriculture by 2025, or between the period of 2020 and 25 in Spain, there will be a need of 20 more people. There will be job opportunities for 20 people, and this is very important to know. So to sum up, we have information about the supply in terms of the labor force, and we have information about the future employment, which is the demand side, and we know both the trend of the sectors and occupations and in terms of the job opportunities, which reflects the demand, the replacement needs of the economy and the sectors. The classifications that we use are the official ones, so we use NACE for sectors and we use ESCO for occupations, and for qualification is the ISCED 3-digit level. So this is the data that is available. Now, how were the data produced? So, as I said in the beginning, Cedefop has been engaging into such activities for more than 10 years. The first project started in 2005. We do use various data sets. The data sets that we use need to be comparable and harmonized, so they need to be comparable across all countries. We use a very large number of data sets. We use national accounts, we use the European Labour Force Survey, and we also use the official macroeconomic projections from ECFIN and the population projections of Europop, so to adopt the official view of the future. We do have many methods. At the center of our methodology is a macroeconomic model, which gives us estimations of the future employment needs, and then we do have a large number of various sophisticated econometric techniques and modules to get the other information that I've been talking about. And let me say that all the results that we produce, they go through the scrutiny of a network of country experts that we have. So we have an expert from each member state that they validate the results, and then we go on publishing the results. Why this sort of data is important? Well, knowledge of the future, it is important for many aspects and for many actors. For example, for policymakers, they may want to design educational systems. They may want to use this information to direct their migration policies. They even may want to assess their benchmark goals. For example, if we know that an age group, a country, the workforce of a country is really aging, then we may want to revise whether it is possible to have, say, 70% employment by 2025 or so on. So it can feed into the discussion regards policy making. Employers' knowledge of, let's say, the future employment needs, it can help them formulate the recruitment policy. So if we see that there is a high demand for a sector, or there is a high replacement need, you may want to start working early on the recruitment practices, so not to fall short of employees in the future. The employees want to know where the jobs, and they may want to change a career. They may want to know which occupations they're growing and in which countries, so this is quite useful. Individuals want to plan their future in terms of educational choices or any sort of career planning regarding occupation and so on. And of course, what is also very important, and I think it is very relevant to this datathon, is that you can use, people can use information for the use of intermediaries. So, for example, some guidance tools could be developed that they could really reveal where the jobs, in which occupations, and how do these compare across sectors and countries. This, I think, it will be really, really important, and it is not possible to, at the moment, see in a vast data set. So what could be improved and what could be the limitations of the data? First of all, however detailed is the data, the users will always want more level of detail. I talked about occupational projections. These currently go at the 2-digit ESCO level, but of course people would like as much detail as possible. Second, the projections do not mean to replace national forecasts. Many countries do produce their own forecast, but we only want to provide the comparative evidence because we use a single methodology and we use harmonized classifications. It is possible to compare employment rates by sectors and occupations across countries, and I think this is what is important. Another limitation is that the demand and supply are not directly comparable, so even though we would very much like to do it, it is not very possible at this stage, at least, to have explicit comparisons and provisions of skills mismatches, even though we produce some indicators, but we need to be careful when we do so. Detailed estimates, this may not be very reliable when we're looking at, for example, if we look at a small country, say Belgium, and we choose an occupation, say welders, and we get some estimations that are below 10,000, then we should be quite careful how we using the information to interpret it. And of course, the information produced should be combined with local knowledge and other sources of information in order to provide a triangulation of data and help for some safe conclusions. So what would the data still reveal? I talked about we can see what would be the prospects of occupations and sectors across countries, which they do have, let's say, bright futures, which are declining and so on, where will be the job opportunities in which sector, in which occupation, based on expansion. Expansion is when, let's say, an occupation, a sector, it is growing, or because of replacement, because a large number of employees will need to be replaced and so on and so forth. We can choose a country and produce detailed analysis. We can choose a sector across EU and provide sectoral analysis, or just choose occupations and see how these vary across countries and so on. This sort of information could help job mobility, the migration trends, which is, I think, very topical at these times, to know what will be the future needs and where, and can inform career planning tools. I mentioned about the relevance of developing a career tool for all this. So this is more or less my presentation. How the data look like. If I share, let's say, if I try to share now a live screen from the Cedefop website, you can see here that you have a table, you have various countries. This could be a filter. You can choose any countries you would like, and then you can apply this, and then you can play around with different years. You can choose some reference years, or you can choose time series, and then you get the data. And of course, what you can do is you can choose to export the data and you can export it in an XLS format, and then you can, have the data in your PC. But I'm sure all the participants of this datathon, they're more relevant than me regarding data extraction. So I think I'm going to stop here, and I would like to thank you so much for your attention, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Elias. It was really interesting. So I guess there is a lot of inspiration for the developers to play with these important data sets. So yeah, are there any questions? I see people are, Theo is saying, no questions, interesting, clear enough for the moment. So.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay. I wonder if Martin is there.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. So we can say thank you to Elias and stay with us, and thanks again for your important input. Thank you, Elias.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Okay, Martin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and I'm trying to share my screen with you.
You are doing that. So, EU Commission, DG Employment, so Directorate-General for Employment, Social Affairs, and Inclusion. And you will speak about EU employment data, another topic, very interesting topic. So the floor is all yours.
So you can see the slides,
yes.
Yeah? Okay, great. So my name is Martin Levrang, and actually I will talk to you about a specific data set, not about the EU employment data in general, but about a specific data set which is called ESCO, and which serves different purposes. And let's take a look at that first. So what is this data set about? What does ESCO stand for? It is a multilingual classification that categorizes skills, competences, also knowledge, qualifications, and occupations. So it stands for European skills, competences, qualifications, and occupations. And why we developed ESCO is because we need for the European labor market, for employment, but also for the education and training side, kind of reference language, a reference vocabulary, in order to create a shared understanding between the actors on the labor market, but also in the education and training world, so that we are able to exchange information. And in the European Union, this also means exchanging information across language barriers. So if we want employment services to cooperate so that a person in one member state can find a job in another EU member state, then these employment services have to cooperate, even though they have different systems. They might have different national standards, different IT systems, use different languages, and for this we developed this reference language.
Martin, it's Paula
Yes.
here. Can I ask you to get a little closer to the microphone, please?
Yeah, actually I'm using my phone, so
okay, so
I can try.
speak
But
just louder then.
okay.
Okay, sorry for interrupting. You go. Yeah.
So yes, we built this data set so that we can have a better communication between the different actors on the labor market and in the education and training sector, across different languages, across different national standards. And one of the key reasons to do that is to match candidates with jobs, so to help people finding a job in another member state. For this, we organized concepts in 3 different pillars in ESCO. So ESCO consists of an occupations pillar, which has 2,942 occupations. It has a skills pillar, which has skills, competences, knowledge, 13,500 more or less. And it has a qualifications pillar in which we help the member states in particular to make their qualifications transparent at the European level. And these pillars are interconnected. And what is also important is that in the occupations and in the skills pillar, each of these concepts comes in 26 languages, and it comes with synonyms. So what it looks like is basically something like this. If you look at an occupation, in this case a carpenter, you always have a description that explains what this occupation is about. It comes with non-preferred terms, so these are synonyms, other terms that are used in the labor market to refer to the same concept. And the term itself and the synonyms, this exists in 26 languages. The description exists only in English. It is linked to the International Standard Classification of Occupations, ESCO 08, and it is linked to the other pillar, so in this case to the skills and competences pillar. So it lists then the concepts in ESCO that are relevant for a carpenter. This dataset was developed in close cooperation with the labor market actors. So in total, we had around 1,000 stakeholders over a period of 6-7 years, contributing to the development of this classification and this vocabulary. And this is important to note here. This is a vocabulary that is based on an expert judgment, on an editorial work, but it is not based on an empirical result. So it is not that we analyzed job vacancies and we saw that applying wood finishes and cleaning wood surface is something that in 90% of the cases is requested for a carpenter. No, it is that a group of experts that know about the wood making industry said, well, these are the concepts that are relevant when we talk about carpenters. So why did we develop this data set? Basically, we want ESCO to be used in employment services when it comes to helping people finding jobs or employers finding candidates. But we also want it to be used by the private market, so by job boards, for example, or in HR management software. So most companies have software in place that helps them automatically to search in a pool of candidates, and in this software, of course, classifications and vocabularies like ESCO play a role. What we want to achieve here is that these job boards or these HR software doesn't operate only in one language, but that it can really use data sets from all over Europe and can this way lead to a better integration of the European labor market and make it easier for people to recruit from abroad or to find a job abroad. We also see added value for ESCO in career guidance. So this is basically the moment where a person wants to understand which skills they should learn next, what would be a good training in order to increase their employability. This can be at the beginning of the career, that before students decide what they want to study, that they want to understand what could a career look like if I study a certain subject. But it can also be at a later stage. For example, if we now think about the fourth industrial revolution, things are changing on the labor market, and there are certainly some sectors and some occupations that will be under pressure, and then people might be interested to see, well, my skills that I have now, if my industry goes into a decline, what of this skill set could I use in another occupation, and what might be good skills to learn, so this aspect of reskilling. Or it could also mean that they want to progress in their career and understand if I want to move towards a management position, what are the skills that I need in addition. And for this purpose, ESCO can also be used. And then an additional use scenario is for statistics, and in particular for big data analysis. So for projects like the one that Cedefop just presented, where it is about understanding skills demand, skills supply, skills gap on the labor market, this is where you need the classification. And in particular, when it comes to big data analysis, you need also a vocabulary that is richer, so not just a classification with very broad categories will not be able to automatically classify, for example, job vacancies according to the occupation that they are looking for. And this is where ESCO comes in, so where you have in total something like 1 million terms over the 26 languages, and where you are able to recognize and to classify job vacancies or the profile of a job seeker. One very important use case for us, or one of the first ones, is the use of ESCO in EURES. EURES is the network of European employment services, so this is a cooperation between the employment services of all member states, but also EFTA countries that are included there, and where the employment services basically cooperate in order to exchange the CVs or the candidates, information on candidates for people that want to work in another member state. This goes back many years. Here you can see what a kind of very, very early version of something like ESCO looked like in the 60s or 70s, where it was all printed on paper, and we had only 4 languages in the European Union, and we had only 6 countries cooperating. And basically we are trying to achieve the same thing with ESCO, which means we use the European reference classification, but then the member states will either use the European classification on a national level, or if they have a national standard that they want to keep, they will create correspondence tables to the European classification. So the idea is to use, in this cooperation between the member states, the ESCO classification as a hub and as the common reference, and all member states and all organizations refer their own data to the European one. This is also put in law. So in last year, the Commission adopted a new EURES regulation that regulates this exchange of job vacancies and CVs between mainly public employment services, but in the future it's also open to private employment services. And as part of this regulation, it is foreseen that the member states map their national classification to the European classification. But this is a process that will only start in next year and will take about up to 3 years. But it means that in the end, all member states will do that, and this will be a quite powerful tool, because it means that also for a private company, for example, when you understand the ESCO classification, you're also able to communicate with all the national standards. We released the first version of the ESCO classification in July, which means that we are now moving from the initial phase of ESCO towards a process of continuous improvement. Of course, the labor market changes, education and training changes, even terminology and the language changes. And of course, in a data set with 1 million terms, you will also find mistakes here or there, things that are not modeled in the best way. So we are foreseeing improvement cycles in which we basically analyze feedback that we get from our stakeholders or issues that we spot in the classification. We prepare that for a discussion on the scope of the next ESCO version. Then we have an ESCO knowledge engineering phase of adapting the content and then transforming that also into the 26 languages and the release of a new classification. We expect that this will not be done on a weekly or monthly basis. It will probably be something that happens every 2 years, more or less, and we expect in particular that before 2020 we would not release a major new version of ESCO, because this is the time period where the member states have to relate their national standards to the European one, and for this phase we want a certain stability. But what would be very interesting for us to learn is through the use of ESCO on real data in the labor market to get more empirical information in the development of the classification. As I said before, in the moment the decision which skills are relevant for a carpenter is something that experts decided, a group of experts from the field decided by sitting together in a meeting room, or they gave some input in an online consultation. But it's not something that is based on empirical data, and we would be very interested to learn more about empirical data and to see what are the skills that are coming up, that are emerging in the profile of a carpenter. Are there new technologies that change the skill set of a carpenter, of a nurse, of a pilot, and so on? So we would like to learn more about this and use the results also from big data analysis for the continuous improvement of ESCO. I will end with a quick overview of the timeline. So it's a long project. It started in 2010 with a stakeholder conference. Then we set up the groups in which stakeholders could contribute to the development of the classification. In 2013, we released a pilot version, which we also tested with several companies. So we had pilots with about 25 companies that used it for job matching, for career guidance, in social media, for publishing information on qualifications. And in 2017, we released the first version. And as of 2018, we expect that it would be used in EURES and that we move into this continuous improvement phase. ESCO is free. It's available now. You'll find the URL on this slide, so it's ec.europa.eu/ESCO. You can find it there in RDF format. I think it's already now available in CSV format. Towards the end of the year, we will offer also an API. And for any questions, you can always contact us through the ESCO portal or by using this email address. We are either happy to receive questions by email, or I'm also happy to receive questions now.
Okay, thank you, Martin. It was very interesting. We learned a lot, and we love your slides also. And very clear everything. Are there questions for Martin? We still have a couple of minutes. Possible question. Corina is asking, how responsive is ESCO to new professions? If a new job type appears, how long would it take for it to be integrated in ESCO?
Yes. There is this is a difficult question in the sense that we have to find a compromise between the flexibility of adapting to changes on the labor market quickly and the stability that you need if you want to provide a reference on the European level. Every change that we make on a concept level, meaning that if we remove an occupation, we split it into two, we add an occupation, or we merge occupations, any type of these changes always create work on those that implemented ESCO, and in particular for those that mapped ESCO to their own standards, to their own classification. This is why there are some changes where we can be quick, like changes in terminology. This is something that can be quite quick. But there are also changes that take more time to prepare because we need to prepare our stakeholders for it. And adding new occupations to the data set or splitting occupations, refining them, this is this type of change. There we expect that the cycles for new data sets would be something like 2 to 3 years. So in 2 to 3 year cycles, we would have new data sets of ESCO, which is, I think, something that is good in order to keep pace with the labor market, because often new occupations appearing are actually more of new buzzwords appearing. It's often that employers are just giving new names to occupations that have already been around in the labor market. So it's not so frequent that you really have brand new occupations. And then this normally also on the labor market doesn't happen overnight. So I think this timeline of 2 to 3 years to react to labor market changes is a good one. If you compare the international standard classification of occupations, which needs to be even more stable because all the statistical reporting all around the world uses this classification, they have about 20 years of revision cycles, and this is then more challenging to keep pace with the labor market. But for us, new occupations like big data analysis or vloggers, or they are in now in the data set, and in 3 years' time, of course, we might have new ones. We will review this on a regular basis.
Okay, and there is another alpha question. To what granularity does ESCO go in today's world of tailoring and specialization of services? These are questions from Corina.
I'm not sure about the question. It's about the granularity of the terminology itself, so of the occupations and the skills.
It's about the level of detail, of specialization of services. Does it remain general, on a general level, the classification of that, or does it go really into the sub-tasks of jobs? Yes. Otherwise, I invite Corina to specify the question.
Yeah. The International Standard Classification of Occupations, ESCO 08, has around 536 groups of occupations. Now, ESCO is detailing this more, so there are more specialisms in ESCO, so that you in total have around 3,000 occupations. But of course, I mean, it's always finding a balance. It's more or less the same level of detail as many of the national classifications in Europe. But even if you look at the national classifications, you have a lot of difference between them. Then for each occupation, I think on average we have something like 40, 50 skills in the occupational profile. My recommendation would be to just go on the ESCO portal and explore the occupations there, look for some examples, search for some occupations and see how they are described. Then you will see to what level of detail it goes. Yeah. It's also that it's not... Sorry?
And anyway, if there are questions, they can contact the mailbox that you mentioned.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to stop now because it's time for the next slot. Thank you a lot, Martin, and thanks for answering the 2 full questions from Corina. There weren't half questions. And it was very clear, and I'm sure some people will get inspiration to participate to the Datathon using ESCO database. So thanks a lot, Martin.
Thank you very much, and really don't hesitate to contact us through this email address if you need any help, any assistance, or you have any questions.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so let's go now to Parma. EFSA. Jane, are you there? We have Jane Richardson from EFSA, and she will speak about EU food consumption data.
Hello.
Jane, your mic
Good morning.
is open.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. I'm also here with my colleague.
Sorry, Jane. There is
Closer.
an echo, so please get closer to the microphone, whether you're using the telephone or don't use the...
We have
just take the phone.
We have a spider, so is this okay now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So I also have my colleague Davide Arcella, who is our expert on food consumption and exposure. So I'll just talk a little bit about OpenFoodTox and then pass to Davide. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes,
Yep.
we do
Okay.
see your screen, but we still have an echo, which is quite disturbing. So,
I don't really know what to do about it.
One by one? Yes, so...
Yeah. Okay, I'll stay very close and see how we get on.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, go.
So... Okay, so the first data set that we want to talk to you is about OpenFoodTox, and you wanted to know how we produce the data. So this information has been extracted from all of the EFSA outputs up to 2016, and it covers over 4,000 substances and covers human health, animal health, and from the environment, both soil, water, and other ecotox species. And basically, we have extracted and linked to each of our EFSA outputs the toxicological reference point, any reference values that were set, and substance characterization. And in the presentation, I put some links if people want to understand a little bit more about how the database was created. Why is this data important to us? We really wanted to have a high-level summary of the content of all the different opinions which have focused on chemical assessment. And we also wanted to make it searchable. So, for example, if you were interested in a particular substance, you could see under which regulations it might have been assessed, whether there was, for example, an acceptable daily intake set, and what the toxicological data was that led to the conclusions in that output. What could be improved about the data set? Well, as I said, in fact, this work was done by some contractors, and they manually extracted the information from all of our published PDFs. So I'm sure all the experts in data can see there might be some potential issues with that approach. And now I'll hand over to Davide to talk about the food consumption database.
Good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this activity. So basically, I would like to present you what we used to call the EFSA Comprehensive European Food Consumption Database. This is quite a large database where we collected food consumption data. These data are coming from the national organization operating in the field of nutrition or in food safety. There are different types. In each member state, there is basically one that is responsible for this data collection. We started this activity in 2010, and we started to collect a certain type of data with certain constraints. So we only accepted food consumption data collected through two different methods. One is the 24-hour recall, and the other is the data record method. Basically, in the first, you ask the person what he or she consumed the day before. It's a kind of a retrospective interview. Whereas in the data record method, the subject is keeping a sort of diary where he writes what he's consuming the same day. We only accepted data collected at individual level, so we have the consumption of each individual for the different meals and eating occasion. We only accepted data, the most recent data within each country. We only accepted data coming from dietary survey collected with a random sample at national level. Actually, here we made a compromise for the children group, for which we also accepted surveys represented at regional level. And we also collected data for different age classes, from infants to the elderly. Here is a few numbers about this database to tell you more or less the magnitude of this database. So we are currently covering 23 member states. In total, we collected data from 51 different surveys, because in some of the member states, they have different surveys for different age classes, so children, adults, elderly, and so on. When we split in the different population group, we cover more or less more than 100 population groups. We have almost 100,000 subjects, and I mean, in total, we have more than 10 million records today. But we are routinely collecting data, and so we will soon increase this number. So the other question is how this database could be improved. So basically, a few years ago, we already started to see that there are different, in each member state, they use different methodologies to collect this kind of information. For example, already the 24-hour recall versus the food record, it's already different methodology that could bring to different results. The number of days per subject, the sample design, the sample size, and so other, and above all, the food classification. So these are all differences that could bring to uncertainty when comparing data from different countries. And for this reason, a few years ago, EFSA launched a framework program that is called What's on the Menu in Europe. In short, we call it the EU Menu Project, within which we are really supporting member states to collect new data, again, in different age classes and in all member states. And the objective is to use a methodology that would allow the comparison of the results. This is a long-term project. We started defining a guideline on how this data should be collected, and we started to fund member states, and you see in the graph that we are already a good stage covering the large majority of member states, and it's a long-term project. We plan to have fully harmonized food consumption data by 2022. Why these data are important? These data are fundamental for the European Food Safety Authority, for us, because they are, together with the information related to the levels of chemicals in food, they are at the basis for assessing the exposure to different types of chemicals, going from pesticides to contaminants, food additives, food contact materials, enzyme, but also nutrients, for example. So in most of the EFSA opinions you will find related to chemicals, you will find a section on the assessment of exposure, and in this assessment the food consumption data that I just presented have been used. But at the same time, a fully formatted database, including data from all over Europe and different age classes, is a kind of gold mine for any, also in other areas, especially in research. And we already got a number of requests to having access to the raw data from a wide range of domains going, and here I reported the last few examples I have. So this database could be used to better study about chronic disease, child obesity, carbon footprint, eating disorders. Recently we got a request to use the database to work on orthorexia. So that's all from my side. This is actually in my presentation I forgot to put the link to the EFSA website with this database is presented and summary statistics are published. In any case, you can contact us and I will be happy to share with you this link. Thank you.
So just to finish, both data sets are available through the EU Open Data Portal, so you can find them there for download. And I guess one of the things we would be interested in is to understand about how we can convey what is, some cases, quite complex scientific information to consumers in the way that it is understandable and useful for them, but that we don't lose the scientific context, so people still understand the key principles of how that data is generated and how it should be interpreted. So I think that's it from us. Thanks. Unless there's any questions, do we?
Okay, while we wait for the questions, I would like to thank you for this presentation, very clear as well. So the links are there, so the people will be able to check the dataset, download it, and use it, hopefully for the Datathon and compete for the big prizes.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you, EFSA. I think we still have 2 minutes, and maybe we ask Eurostat to check if we check with Eurostat. Christine, are you there? So thank you, Jane. Thank you, EFSA.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm here. Christine Coleman, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Good. I will try to put the camera on as well.
Yeah, so we go to the last speaker of today, Christian Korman from Eurostat. And we can also see you. I mean,
good.
Hello, wave.
Hello.
Next time we will have all the camera, okay? So you can see us too. And you are going to talk about experimental statistics.
Yes, actually, I will try to put my presentation on.
Yeah.
And maybe can you see it now?
Not yet.
No. Okay. So
quick start and share screen.
I need to have the share screen. Yes. Okay. Okay.
We went to Ispra, then to Parma, and then back to Luxembourg.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes?
The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. So good morning to everybody. Christine Korman from Eurostat. I'm really glad to present. I would like to put actually in context this innovation that we have now about experimental statistics. So I will actually start with more the traditional European statistics that we publish as open data, because they should be also remembered because they are a big and great source of data. And then I will expand on what is really new, which is experimental statistics. So just to remember, as a source, provider, so Eurostat, the statistical office, we provide high quality statistics, which means that it's more than open data. It's statistics that we produce with according to specific principles and methodology in order to ensure their quality. And they are for Europe. That means we produce them, of course, to support EU policies, but we are very eager that they are used also very much by outside users and increasingly also by really a wider range of users and possibly reaching citizens. So that's why we really believe a lot in this exercise of the Datathon, and we hope something really nice can come out of it. So just to recall, we are coordinating the European statistical system, which means it is the national statistical offices plus Eurostat. So national statistical offices largely collect and verify the data, and they work according to common definitions and methods that we elaborate together. And the role of the Eurostat is to consolidate this data to produce European aggregates, so-called EU28 or Eurozone aggregates, and then we publish these statistics as open data. So just to recall, that means for many years now our data is of free access. It's also for free reuse, both for non-commercial and commercial purpose. And our data is available obviously through the OP data portal, where we provide around 7,000 data sets. That's why it's challenging for me to choose today. And also through our website and database. We are what we call 3-star open, so we disseminate as non-proprietary format. We also provide services of bulk downloads, so to download all bulks of the data, and also web services. So as I said, it's a bit hard to choose because it's our core business to produce data, so we have quite a lot. I have just made a little mapping of data that we have identified and that contributes mainly to the Commission priorities, job growth and investment, and digital single market, which are particularly at the core of this Datathon. So here I will not go through all of them, but you will find listed the data sets which are the most relevant. And I will focus on official data on 2 data sets, the labor force survey and the ICT survey. So just to give you an idea of the official statistics that can be used also in combination with other sources that also have been presented to you. So the labor force survey, it's the largest European household sample survey. It focuses on it can contribute to analysis of labor market and dedication. It's with participating countries, all the EU member states plus 5 others. It has quarterly and annual results, and it uses harmonized concept and definition. I have put the link here. So the labor force survey is really a key survey for all labor market analysis. Here you will not maybe see all the details, but basically the main variables that are collected are, demographic, geographic, and composition of households, and then the educational characteristics, and with then split population between the active population, employed, unemployed people, and the inactive population. So for each you have really a wide range of variables that you can cross, and then we will encourage you also to reuse this data in combination with other sources. The second official survey that I wanted to mention, it's related to the second priority, digital single market. It's annual surveys that we produce on ICT. And it is about usage in enterprises and usage in households and by individuals. So we have each year a basic survey and modules, because as you know, this sector is going very fast. So the issues are the patterns change. So we actually, for example, we have modules for enterprises recently about mobile and social media use, but also cloud computing, big data, robotics, or 3D printing. And concerning households, we had, for example, modules also about the collaborative economy, privacy, and e-commerce as well. So this is also an official source of harmonized data that you can find on the OP data portal and, of course, on our database. So now I will move on to the really new part. Besides the bulk of official statistics that we produce, and that is our main role, we are developing also new statistics that we call experimental, and we define them as the statistics with different level of maturity. Mainly, they come either from new sources, in particular big data. This is starting now, but it will come even more in the next year. Or they are based on new methods, for example, relying on modeling. They are interesting because usually they are there because there are gaps that we did not fulfill before, and they are specifically developed to respond to specific needs. Of course, in those cases, they should be interpreted with care. That's why we have put quite a lot of methodological notes around them, so that you can also use them knowing what maybe the assumptions or the potential issues in the interpretation of the data. You will find a link below. There are 5 data sets that have been issued. The initiative was launched in June this year, so it's very new. And we also expect really to get feedback, so we would be happy to get feedback on this. Out of the 5 data sets, I wanted to mention in particular 2. So the first one is labor market transition. And here, in fact, it is actually based on the labor force survey, so on official data, but it's increasingly important to understand the transition that people make between different status in the labor market. So they can move from unemployment to employment, but also unemployment to inactivity. So we have been publishing data about this as official statistics, but we were missing the breakdowns by sex, age, and duration of employment. And those breakdowns, they are very essential to make a deeper analysis of all these transitions and to understand really the factors that can explain these different transitions, and also to help the policy making and how to improve the movement from unemployment to employment in particular. So these breakdowns, they can only be made for the moment as experimental because basically size of the sample on a quarterly level, but they are really important. So this has been disseminated on the database so since June, and so we will be happy to have them used, and also to get feedback on them to see how useful they are, and also if you have other kind of feedback. So this is one example of experimental statistics that is directly in the database. The second example of experimental statistics which is not yet in the database, so it's available as an Excel file, so it's a bit less open, but it's very new. It's what we call skills mismatch indicators. And again, those are initially, based on official statistics, but here the experimental component is the fact that it's indicators on which there is no agreed consensus yet, so it's not official indicators, but as you can imagine, they are also very topical because so for this first priority on the jobs and growth, this is also very important to understand the mismatch between the skills and the job offers. And it is tricky because the skills are on an individual basis and the job offers are on the enterprise basis. So it makes it difficult to elaborate. And so Eurostat has proposed to disseminate as experimental 2 main indicators. Then this was launched very recently in July or beginning of August. And they are the overqualification rate, So basically, whether if you qualify and you get a job which is lower than your qualification, and the both job mismatch by field of education, being if you are qualified in a certain field and then you will work in another field. So again, these are our data available so openly, although it is in Excel, and we would be very eager that they are used also for analysis and for making them attractive and usable, but also we are very happy to get feedback on them, because this is a process and it is a bit of a new approach for Eurostat to publish the data when it's still at a level where we are really finalizing the methodologies, and we want to get feedback from external users before we really go into a more official way. So I think I will finish with this. For more information, I'll just put the link to the help support page on our website, where you can get either information to raise questions in your own language or to the central user support in Eurostat. So that I think that's the most generic support that we can provide, and people will be able to help you to guide if you have very specific questions on any of the data sets. So wish you good luck for working with the data, and I hope you can really make interesting things with combining official statistics with other sources of data that have been presented today by other DGs or agencies, and also to test our experimental statistics. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Christine. It was, I agree with what you just said. There are possibilities to combine different sources of data. I see especially about qualification, mismatch, employment, skills, and other colleagues, Cedefop and ESCO, they have also mentioned this topic. So thank you. That gives ideas to our developers how to use this information. And I would like to thank you for your clear speech and nice presentation, and I'm sure the participants will use Eurostat data. Okay, I think this is the end of it, and while we wait for questions, this couple of minutes, but it was clear enough, and anyway, everyone will receive the recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint presentations. They will all be, you will all receive the links to download them. Secondly, I would like to invite the participants, today's participants, to next webinar, because it will be on the 3rd of October on other topics. I remember the topics. Again, Open Data Portal, a very quick presentation as we did today. Regional urban data from DG Regio. The Transparency Register from EU Commission Secretariat-General. And then tenders, electronic daily data, which is also managed here in the Publications Office. And last, the OP portal of the Publications Office again. Maybe there will be more surprises, so just register to the webinar for next week at 10 o'clock again. So I would like to thank everyone for attending, in particular all the speakers were so kind. They took the time to explain, to show their data sets, and to open possible ideas and challenges for the Datathon. I remind you, the Datathon will focus on the reuse of open data from the EU Open Data Portal, so you will find all those data sets on the Open Data Portal. And some dates for the Datathon, it has started now in September. The final event will be in Brussels on the 16th of November, and we invite you all to participate as visitors. You are all welcome. It's a free event, so if you don't participate as competitors, you can always come and see. And the winners will present the project at the European Big Data Value Forum in Versailles on 21st, 23rd of November. So they will win a trip to Versailles, all sponsored by the Publications Office. and the Estonian presidency of the European Council. That's it. So if you have any questions, you can always write on to OP-Datathon inbox. You will find all the information and the links here on the page that you see now, all the links and the contact points. Thank you a lot, and have a good day. This is all from the Publications Office. Paola and Simon, see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.